Hello, I'm Sasha, and today I'll be interviewing. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Wes Lukoshus.
All right, and can you tell us a bit about your personal life and what you do in your career?
Well, I grew up in Hammond, in the Hessville community. I went to Morton High School, graduated from there, and became a journalist, print journalist, and did that for about 8 or 9 years. I eventually changed careers and worked in higher education at Purdue University Calumet, which is now Purdue Northwest, and I did that for 32 years. As an administrator, I worked and retired there in 2017.
Nice. Would you say school was much different back then when you were there?
Well, I don't know exactly how school is now, but I'm sure that there have been many changes. It was a close-knit community, though. You know, these were our best friends that I went to school with. There were more high schools here in Hammond than there are now. I competed in athletics, and so you got to be close to friends, and I'm sure that that is much the same as it is now. But learning is different, and you know, I think learning is always growing and enabling people to find out things in ways that perhaps they weren't able to do so during my time.
Yeah. And you said you were a journalist. What made you want to change your mind about your career?
Well, I was a sports journalist, and my wife was a school teacher, and so we tended to work at different ends of the day. I worked in the evenings and on weekends when sporting events took place. She taught school Monday through Friday during the day, and we were like two ships passing in the night, so it kind of got me thinking that this is going to be challenging for us to, you know, have a life together and maybe raise a family. So I began to look at and explore other ways that I could use my love for communication and writing and enabling people to learn more about things, what doors might open for me.
Yes. And so what exactly do you do now?
Well, I do a lot of things. I'm active in the Hammond Sports Hall of Fame. I have been a chairman of that for some 39 years, and I continue to chair what is our steering committee. It's a committee of volunteer individuals who have had ties with the school city of Hammond and athletics, and so it's a dedicated group, and I find that work, volunteer work, very satisfying. I continue to do that. I'm active in my church, Ridge United Methodist in Munster. I do some writing now. I have 2 grandchildren, ages 2 and 5, and so I've kind of gotten into the idea of writing children's books, and so that's been kind of fun, a hobby for me.
What children's books have you written? What are they about?
Well, you won't find them published anywhere, but they're just kind of books that I've written and I've had printed and I distribute to friends. One book, my first book, was called, or is called, What If I Were a Puppy? You know, about a little boy who's kind of mischievous, and he's thinking that, you know, if he was a puppy, nobody ever yells at a puppy, and so he would have a lot more fun. And so over the course of the book, he learns that maybe he's better off being what he is.
That's cool. And you explained the Hammond Sports Hall of Fame. What exactly is that?
Well, it's like many halls of fame, it honors individuals who have been successful and have achieved a great deal in the world of sports through various means, either as an athlete, as a coach, as an administrator, as individuals who maybe served behind the scenes, but who have made contributions, significant contributions to Hammond. And a lot of people are aware, but many people are also unaware of the fact that Hammond has a very significant sports legacy. We've had individuals through the years who have competed at their high schools in Hammond, who have gone on to be college athletes, stars, who have gone on to play professionally in Major League Baseball, the National Football League, the NBA. And so there are these individuals who have made a mark for themselves, and the Hall of Fame tries to recognize these individuals and honor them, and so our Hall of Fame is actually a physical facility in the Hammond Civic Center, and we have Each induction class is recognized and on a wall through a handsome wall hanging, and people from Hammond and elsewhere are welcome to come into the Civic Center and walk the halls of the lobby around the gymnasium and read about and learn about individuals who comprise our Hall of Fame.
That's awesome. Is there any individual or story that sticks out to you when you think of the Hammond Hall of Fame?
Well, there are a number of people who have done some interesting things. There was a Morton athlete who went on to become a high school All-American quarterback, but his favorite sport was baseball. And he went on, rather than take a college football scholarship, he went on to sign with the Cincinnati Reds and become part of what was part of the Big Red Machine. That was a Cincinnati Reds, a group of teams over the 1970s that were very successful and won World Series a number of times. And so he went from being an All-American quarterback in high school to playing Major League Baseball for the Cincinnati Reds. We've had people, many people have probably heard of Notre Dame football and the game of winning one for the Gipper. One of the star players of Notre Dame had become ill and he was on his deathbed, and he asked his coach, to tell the boys to win one for the Gipper. Well, one of the players who happened to score the tying touchdown of that game against Army he was a young man from Hammond, Jack Chevegny. And so this is back in the 1920s. So there are all sorts of interesting stories about people. And many individuals may not realize that there was a Hammond professional football team that was a charter member of what is now the National Football League. National Football League started in 1920 under a different name. 2 years later, it was renamed the National Football League. And one of the charter members of that era in the early 1920s was a team called the Hammond Pros. And so Hammond has that distinction of having a charter member team in the National Football League.
That's really cool. I never knew any of that. And you mentioned you worked at Purdue. What exactly is your job there?
My job had a number of titles, but Director of University Relations. I was Assistant Vice Chancellor for Marketing and Communication. And basically, I was the spokesperson for the university. I compiled the news, wrote news stories, news releases, had a radio program about Purdue Calumet and Purdue Northwest. So it was basically my job, in short, was keeping the public aware of what was going on at our campus, the good news, the bad news, and responding to the news media when they had questions.
That's really cool. And how did you get into that? Was it a hard journey to get there?
Well, it was interesting. As I mentioned earlier, I was thinking of changing careers, and so I was on a journey looking for a job, and I wasn't sure what I was looking for. And I think, so many high school students and college students can maybe understand and appreciate that. We want to do something, we want to be successful, but we're not sure what it is that we want to be. And so through a number of opportunities, and I credit God with putting these in my pathway, I wound up interviewing for some positions at other colleges, but I didn't have experience in the field. And so at the end, over a series of interviews, it was always my lack of experience that kind of cut me off. And so I thought to myself, well, I need to get some experience. And to work in higher education, I'll need to go back to school and get a graduate degree. So I went to Purdue Calumet at the time and enrolled in graduate school and wound up qualifying for some graduate assistantships. And through the course of that experience, a job opened, and my supervisor at the time, while I was serving as a grad assistant, hired me for the position, and I was there for 32 years. Enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah. Is there anything you wish you could do more of or change about the way you work?
Well, I enjoy writing. I wrote news releases, I've written stories, I write children's books now, I've written poetry. Just the notion of putting words together, that's kind of, we all, I think, have our desire, to create, okay? And so that's my creation, if you will, to be able to write and to do things of that nature.
That's pretty cool. Well, thank you for your time. That's all we have for today. Thank you for coming out, and thank you guys for watching.
Well, thank you, Sasha. It's been my pleasure.
Of course.